I call Porter Williams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and it's a pleasure to rise and take a short call on the Civil Defence Emergency Management Amendment Bill. I just want to make a few points, Mr Speaker, and they do come out of the Christchurch experience, and ensuring that we don't let the opportunity to ensure that we take the learnings out of that experience when we are preparing legislation. I know that this legislation is really designed not for the large-scale events that we saw, but there are a couple of things that we can learn from Christchurch. I know that this bill looks specifically at the definition of recovery, but the importance to note is that recovery is more than just about the provision of essential services, that those civil defence workers are required to have a range of knowledge and to support a range of experiences. And as you may be aware, Mr Speaker, when you turn up to a particular event, you are never quite sure what you are going to find. And it's important to ensure that their workforce development is up to scratch, but that it is more than just ensuring shelter and that they are protected from immediate danger, that there are some longer-term impacts that our civil defence emergency people are important in supporting. One of the real lessons that has been learnt that we haven't really taken full cognizance of is that around strategic recovery plans, there are some things that we've really missed. One of that is around business continuity. What happened in Christchurch is that in the initial phase, there were some plans put in place to ensure that businesses could continue in the short term, but we did not fully take into account what happens in the longer term for businesses, so that every time, for example, in Christchurch, a road is dug up or a walkway is cordoned off for some works, that impacts our local businesses. And there are many businesses in the eastern suburbs of Christchurch who have month after month after month had to put up with the disruption, particularly to traffic and foot traffic. So that severely impacted their long-term viability as businesses. And while that might not sound important, it has been hugely important to them, because as soon as you disrupt the ability for customers to get to a business, you do that once, they are unlikely to return. And it's been our local businesses in Christchurch East who have really suffered a huge impact because of the level of disruption has meant that their long-term business viability has really been impacted. So when we are looking at strategic recovery plans after an event or a disaster, we must look at business continuity, not just in the early days and weeks, but longer term, particularly when we are in recovery phase, when we are looking at the disruption that might occur. Mr Speaker, there was a submission made by the Christchurch City Council there were three submissions made, but this one in particular talks about local control and ensuring that we have adequate local control. That is one of the lessons that I think that we haven't learned in Canterbury. That local people know their environment. They should be able to have the ability, they certainly have the expertise, they should have the ability, Mr Speaker, to be able to affect whatever plans they need to in terms of the recovery of the city and the community that they know so well. And we were very disappointed when we were unable to affect local democracy back through ECAN. We are really hopeful that the government, will see sense and restore local democracy sooner rather than later, because our communities actually know what's best for them. In the few seconds I have left, Mr Speaker, I do want to make one final comment, and that is ensuring that we have the ability to have the alarm system and the warning system for everybody in our community, and that includes the vision impaired and the hearing impaired. And I want to acknowledge the petition that's recently been come to the House to ensure that those of our community who are hearing impaired have the opportunity to have the alarms to warn them to get out of dangerous situations which they don't currently have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.